Hi everyone, welcome to the College Success Coalition overview for Restart Refresh counties that are considering doing a Restart Refresh. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am the president of the American Student Achievement Institute. And with me today also is Debbie Howell, who is a strategic planning specialist for our organization. And Debbie's role with ASA is to serve the coalitions. Just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that we facilitate the College Success Coalition on behalf of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. This is a commission initiative, and so we're here on behalf of Teresa Lubbers, the commissioner for the Commission for Higher Ed, and also Jason Bierce, who is the associate commissioner for CHE, and also the director of Learn More Indiana. So we're pleased to be there on their behalf, and also pleased that the commission sees the benefit of doing this kind of work in communities. So before we start, we always like to define the word college. We want everyone to remember that when we use the word college, we're using that word very broadly to include all types of post-secondary education that students could start after 12th grade. So that would include four-year college, two-year college, apprenticeship programs, career colleges, and also job training in the military. So anytime we use the word college, really just kind of think post-secondary and all different kinds of post-secondary. We do know that in some of the counties, the coalitions have changed the name to the Career Success Coalition or the Career and Post-Secondary Success Coalition or the Post-Secondary Success Coalition. So we're not married to the term college, and if the word career or post-secondary works better in your community, feel free to change the name. Okay, so the first question we have is why is the College Success Coalition even important? We know that some of you are listening to this webinar as first-time steering team members, or maybe people even that are considering being a steering team member. And so we want to talk a little bit about why we think this effort is worth your time and your energy. First of all, we strongly believe that the College Success Coalition is economic development for your community. One of the things that we know is that in other countries, the wage for low-skill, low-wage jobs is much, much less than in the United States. In China, in India, for example, the wage is below $1 an hour. Where in the United States, a manufacturing job, the average wage is $17.20. So the question is, in your community, in your county, if you were a CEO and you had low-skill, low-wage jobs that you were needing to employ, where would you send those jobs? Well, most employers are telling us, and they're probably telling you, that those jobs they're shipping those jobs to India and China because the workforce is just so inexpensive there. So if you have, or we ask you to have folks on your steering team representing economic development in your Chamber of Commerce, and I think you could probably echo this fact that the low-skill jobs are probably not going to stay in your county. So then what most CEOs and community members will tell us is, well, okay, let's keep the high-skill, high-wage jobs in our communities. But we're also hearing from the industry and business that those jobs they're also thinking about and sending to other countries because the workforce is so much more skilled in other countries. So there's an assessment called the TIMSS assessment. It's given every 4 years to 4th graders and 8th graders, and there's 56 countries that participate. And right now in math, the United States ranks 9, and in science, the United States ranks 10. So again, if a company, a CEO, were looking for a skilled workforce, they would most likely also be looking at people from other countries. So what we hear from most counties, most communities, is, well, okay, the low-skill jobs, let's let those jobs go to other countries, but let's keep those high-skill, high-wage jobs in the United States, in our county, in our community. And so then it's really looking at how do we create in your community a high-skilled workforce. And part of that is, looking at what happens in K-12. Part of it is looking at what's happening with your adult learners. But it's really looking at, how do we raise academic rigor, and then how do we enable people to continue their education after high school, or to return to an education for an adult learner. When we talk about this, we often have people say, well, yeah, but in the United States we have such a creative workforce. And that's true. The United States right now is probably #1 in creativity among all countries. However, in our other work in school improvement, we have studied the curriculum and talked to educators in India and China and in other countries. And what we find is, while we're looking at upping academic rigor, in other countries they're looking at upping their creativity, and their curriculum is actually now designed to start to compete with us, the United States, in the creativity area. So really, we're thinking that in terms of economic development, it really, we think, makes sense to have your community starting to really look at how do we increase academic rigor so that we can compete and keep our high-skill, high-wage jobs here in our towns, and then how do we maintain our creativity in our workforce. So one reason we think it's so important for your county and for you personally to get involved in this work is just because of your community's economic well-being. So that's a big reason. Another reason is just looking at standard of living. We know, and you probably have all seen this data, that as one's income goes up, as one's education goes up, their income also goes up, and also as their education goes up, the unemployment goes down. So this is old news. You probably have all seen this before. What you might not realize is that as the percentage of post-secondary credential holders in your county or in your community goes up, the other thing that goes up is the wage of your high school dropouts. So interesting. So when you are impacting college access and college completion in your county, you're impacting everybody from those who actually earn the credentials to those who are high school dropouts. Another reason for getting involved, and for me personally, this is what drew me to this work to begin with, is just looking at social justice. I know that when I started looking at college enrollment by income levels, and I thought, oh my gosh, if you just happen to be born into a low-income family, your chances of enrolling in post-secondary are much less. That was data that just upset me, and I wanted to do something about that. So for me, that's what brought me to the table. And then also for me, looking at the gaps in enrollment by different race and ethnic groups. So for me personally, this is what drew me to the table, and I suspect that in your communities, for some of you, this will be the pull. Others, it's going to be economic development. And then there's some other impacts. We know that when your percentage of college degree holders goes up, that those people are smoking at less than half the national average. They exercise more. They spend more time on education with their children. They volunteer more, and they vote at a higher rate. So there's lots of reasons why this is good work for your community. It's important to the community. So the next question is then, okay, when do I know in the College Success Coalition that it's time to restart or refresh? So here's some indicators that we tend to look for. The first one is if there's high steering team turnover. In some counties, the entire steering team have taken jobs in other counties, and so there's nobody left on the steering team. So that would be a reason. Another reason is that the steering team members that you have are not engaged for one reason or another. Maybe the tasks have not been delegated, and maybe people aren't following through. In some counties, what we find is that there's one person who's doing everything, and that is a real sign that this is a steering team that's in trouble. We know that one person isn't likely to have the time or the energy to continue for long term. So if this is the situation, if your steering team members are not engaged, got one person that's doing everything or just a couple people that are doing everything, then that's a real good sign that it's time to refresh and restart your coalition. And then The last reason is sometimes we have steering teams that begin to storm. The steering team members begin to not get along. And that is also a very natural and normal part of group development. I'll talk about that more in a second, but that's a really good sign also that it's time to refresh or restart. And the refresh restart that we're offering will allow you to get past that storming stage. So one thing that I think it's really important for everyone to realize is that this is not about blaming anyone for, the fact that maybe you got a false start on your coalition or you need a restart. It's not about blaming. I mean, who cares why this happened? What we do care about is that we just move forward. So I would really encourage you that as you have conversations about why maybe, you're needing a restart, that if people start to blame, if someone starts to say, well, John didn't do his work, just stop that conversation. Just say, this is not about blaming. We're just trying to figure out how to move forward. So we think that's really important at this point. So I do want to talk about that storming part because in all steering teams, the people go through that stage. It's just a natural part of group development. So there's 4 stages of group development. The first one is forming. That's what some of you did, in 2010, 2011. And at that time, there is a desire to be accepted. There tends to be very little controversy. Everybody just wants everybody to be happy. And to be happy, then we have to avoid maybe some serious issues and discussions about those issues and feelings. At that time, we tend to focus on, the steering team tends to focus on organizational structure for 2 reasons. One is that we have to set up the structure, but the other reason is that that's because that's a really safe conversation. And it's a time where people are getting to know each other. So we're, gathering impressions about each other and the work that's to be done. It's just, we're just gathering information. But there's not much controversy that comes up. Everybody's being, kind of safe at this point. As you restart or refresh your coalition, some of you will probably jump back into this stage, and that's fine. You're just getting to know each other, trying to figure out what the work is all about. We're kind of jumping back to this stage. The next stage is that storming stage, and that tends to happen. It's a good sign. We like it when this happens because what that means is that the steering team is starting to talk about important issues. And instead of just, smoothing over everything, people are starting to ask questions about, what are the tasks and what is my role and how are we doing this? It still may be a point where conflict is suppressed, especially if there's a culture like there tends to be in education where we just want everybody to be happy. So we want to be looking for that because if we're suppressing those conflicts, they'll come out later as passive-aggressive. There'll be some tone on a statement that's said or whatever. So we just want to, in a very, loving and caring way, get those conflicts out, and talk about how that conflict is interfering with your overall goal and just kind of work it out. So some people feel uncomfortable in the storming, and, that's just natural. But I think it's important to realize that storming happens, and it's a healthy, good part of group development. It means that you're starting to discuss real issues. The negative part about storming is that all of your energy gets focused on resolving the conflict, and that means that less energy is getting focused on, the coalition and the coalition work. So the way to get out of storming is to go into the next stage, which is called norming. So then you're saying, okay, let's establish some group norms, group rules. Let's make sure that everybody understands their tasks and everybody understands that if John doesn't do his task, this is how it's going to hurt our whole effort. Let's make everything really clear. Let's make everyone understand how much we appreciate each other, that we know we couldn't do this work if John didn't pull his weight. Being able to listen to each other, being able to change preconceived notions. But then there's still a little fear that we're going to jump back to that storming stage. But as you continue to work, you get farther and farther away from the norming, and the group just becomes cohesive. The last step then is where you want to end up, and I really hats off to all of the counties that are thinking about doing a restart or refresh, because what that tells me is that you really want to get to this performing stage. And man, when you get to this stage, things are just humming. There's high trust among the steering team members. There's independent activity. You know, John's doing his work, Susie's doing her tasks, Mary's doing her part. There's group identity, loyalty, morale's really high. There's a high comfort level with each other. And roles change seamlessly. When it's time to collect data, the person in charge of data is kind of taking the lead. When it's time to have the first member meeting, the person in charge of member meetings is taking the lead. So everybody's just kind of flowing. It's just a really healthy organization. And the cool thing about performing is that now the energy is on the task instead of on the steering team. So we love it when we get to this point. Sometimes it takes a few years before we get that steering team, you know, to the place where it's humming. So we want you to know that we view ourselves as a partner with you in this, and if you get stuck in these stages, you know, call Debbie and she'll help you work through it. So, anyway, so stages of development. Okay, so a little bit of review. First of all, for those of you who are new or considering being on the steering team, here are the goals of the coalition. There's 3 goals. They're all data-driven. First goal is to increase the percentage of students who enter college in the fall following their high school graduation. And remember, by college we mean all different types: apprenticeship programs, 2-year, 4-year, job training in the military. So this student would count in this if they have entered post-secondary in the fall following their high school graduation. And we say in the fall because we know that when students start post-secondary immediately following high school, their chances of completing are much higher. If a student has been out of high school for a few years, and then they're thinking about going into post-secondary, then life is getting in the way. You know, they have families, a job, children, and it's just hard to get back. So we're really wanting that data point to be the percentage of students who enter college right after high school. The second data point is the percentage of students who earn a post-secondary credential within 4 years. So an apprenticeship certificate, a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, but that whatever it is, it's happening within 4 years. So we just picked that 4-year point because we wanted there to be one point in time where we were going to do a count. So 4 years out, the 2-year completers would have completed, the 4-year completers would have completed, the apprenticeship program they would complete. So that's just the point in time where we take the data check. Some people have asked us, well, why not 6 years? We will give you not only 4-year data, but also 6-year data, so that locally, if you wanted to make a 6-year goal, you could. We like to stick with the 4-year goal because we know that financial aid tends to end in 4 years. And if a student does take 6 years to finish a 4-year degree, they're probably doing those last 2 years with a lot of loans or having to work to go to college at the same time. So we really focus on the 4 years so that we're within the financial aid years. And then finally, the last data point will pull in your adult learners. We're looking at the percentage of citizens who have a post-secondary credential. That data is Census Bureau data, and we're really focusing, a lot of our counties actually have taught us to focus on those adult learners. In your county, if you're typical, and you probably are, there are more adults in your community that have a partial post-secondary credential than there are high school graduates. So a lot of our counties are really starting to think about, well, how do we re-engage our adult learners who are partial completers? And this data point kind of captures not only the students, but also the adult learners in your community. Okay, so those are the goals of the coalition, and we'll provide the baseline data. You'll set target goals through county, or even your high school geographic regions. You can go sub-county if you want to. So then in terms of our current engagement, right now we're active in 59 counties, but as you know, some of these counties are very active, and other of these counties had false starts, and we're restarting in them. It's just, that's just natural that kind of thing happens. We are starting coalitions in the remaining 33 counties this year, so at the end of this year we'll have coalitions in all 92 counties. We've trained just under 500 steering team members. We will train another 250 this year. And I'm just so excited. I just looked these numbers up this morning. we now have across the state 1,780 organizations that have joined the coalition, and they have documented almost 3,000 activities that they're doing in their communities to promote college access and college completion. So this has just taken off. I think this shows that there's a real need out there. I think it also shows that the coalition is providing a good organizational structure and resources so that the community organizations can get engaged. I'm just really, really tickled that this just has blossomed. And, really we're creating a movement. In all of our work is about creating grassroots movements, and that's what we're doing. We're at the state level, we're looking at policies and programs and resources, but at this level, you are looking at creating a grassroots movement, which is just so exciting. Okay, so just wanted to talk to you about a couple of counties, just to kind of give you an idea of the counties that have really engaged, the kind of things that they're doing. So first one's Perry County in the southern part of the state. They have an active Facebook presence. And a kind of a fun thing to do is to just go on Facebook and search for Success Coalition. And all the different Indiana counties will pop up. There's maybe 15 of them that have Facebook sites that they post on regularly. So Perry County, they've been around for a couple of years, several years, and this is just an example of one of the activities that they ended up doing. As the coalitions engage, usually in year 2 or year 3, the member organizations start to understand where they could pool their resources. And in this case, member organizations decided collectively to put on a county-wide luncheon for girls with the focus being on STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, and math. So that was, an initiative that wouldn't have happened except for the coalition. And what made it happen is that the member organizations in year 2 especially, when they started talking about their individual initiatives, the light bulb went off, oh, we could be working together, and this was a result of that. In Hancock County, the coalition has really taken off in Hancock County. The manufacturing community is extremely engaged with the coalition in Hancock County. And when they did their data study, one of the things that they discovered is that kids didn't have access to face-to-face discussions about post-secondary with representatives of post-secondary. And so one of the, again, collective activities that they decided to do, in addition to each of their member activities, was to put on a county college fair, except they call it a college fair on steroids. They not only brought in the college admissions reps to speak, and again, college being all different types of post-secondary ed, but they also had workshops and presentations, and I mean, it was really an amazing day. So, and again, they looked at the data, they found the need, and then they acted on that need. Wabash County is, again, I think just a engaged county, very exciting. When they looked at their root cause data, they were concerned that their students weren't saving for college. And so they, again, this became a kind of a collective initiative. The YMCA was really involved with this. But they started an initiative called the Wabash County Promise. And basically what they're doing is that they're providing a college savings plan for every single kindergarten, first grader, second grader, and third grader in the county. There's data that shows that if a student has a college savings plan, that they're 7 times more likely to complete college. So that's where the road they decided to go down, and just really excited about this initiative in their county. So, and then the last one I just wanted to touch on was Lawrence County. Lawrence County is kind of south of, well, it's where Bedford is, south of Bloomington, and they have been extremely active, and they've been in since 2010, so they've been with the coalition a long time. Duke Energy engaged in their coalition in a big way. They have funded a lot of their initiatives. But Lawrence County is to the point where the initial funding that was provided by the coalition, they've worked through. So now they need to be thinking about sustaining their organization financially. And Duke Energy came in, which was in several other organizations as well, but Duke was a big one. But then they also held last summer the first College Spirit 5K, and it was kind of cool. When people registered, they had to say which Indiana post-secondary institution they were running on behalf of. So they had kind of a friendly competition. I think it ended up being IU, maybe Ivy Tech, that had the most runners, and they raised $1,500 or so. So yeah, it was a good fundraiser, but also got the community talking about college. So thought that was really kind of a clever idea, really energetic team there. Okay, and then the results. So if I were in the shoes of you, thinking about, do I want to put my effort, my time, and my energy into this, I'd be saying, okay, show me it makes a difference. So here's Benton County, and so there's the 3 data points, and you can see there on post-secondary enrollment what's happened, over the years. Their goal is 65%. They're getting close to their goal. Matter of fact, I bet they redo this goal to make it a little higher than what it is. You can see their post-secondary completion, and then their citizens who have a credential. So, it's making a difference. Now, we can't say that this is all due to the coalition. I'm sure, there's other state policies and things that would impact this. But, I think definitely, since this is a grassroots initiative in Benton County, the coalition had a big part to do with this. Here's Lawrence County. So same kind of trends. Here's Perry County. Same kind of trends. Look at their the second data point. 20% of students of high school graduates have earned a post-secondary credential within 4 years. So remember, a high school graduate who doesn't enter college, they don't count in this. To be counted in this, you have to enter college after high school and then complete college. So 20%, state average is like 10 to 11%, so they've really done a nice job there. And then Hancock County, I was tickled by this one. When I was looking at their data, we had to put to be announced or to be determined on their 2018 goal, because their goal actually was underneath, they exceeded their goal in 2012. So they are now having to go back and redo their goal there. So they were like majorly tickled about that. And we presented this data actually last week to the commission, and I think it's very, very impressive. So okay, so that data I just wanted to share to help you understand that this is not only good work, it's successful work, that it is work that makes a difference. So okay, so reviewing the organizational structure very fast. In our work, the organizational structure involves 2 different levels. One level is the steering team. And that's what when a county needs a restart, as we discussed earlier, there's usually an issue with the steering team. So I want to emphasize that the steering team are not the decision makers. The steering team are the change managers. So you're going to manage the change, help the people have discussions, help them set goals, help them figure out what's getting in the way, recruiting member organizations, you're managing the change. And in terms of the membership, on the steering team, and we know we talked to the county before we started the webinar, and they had lots of the right players at the table. So on the membership of your steering team, we're looking at someone from local government, someone from economic development or the Chamber of Commerce, someone from the Community Foundation, someone from one of your high schools, and we'd like that person to be a counseling director, someone from higher ed, a youth service organization, a faith-based organization, and someone representing a service club. So the reason we like this makeup, and we've been doing this work for about 20 years now, and this makeup has really worked well for us. If you notice it, some of these people have the ability to impact local policy. So your local government official, or looking at institutional policy, your high school person may be able to impact policy there. So some of this is about impacting local policy. Some of those people have the ability to obtain resources. So especially community foundation. The community foundations that we've talked to tend to not have a lot of manpower, but they have a lot of connections to resources in the community. So what you'll be bringing in to them is the arms and legs. You'll have the manpower through all your member organizations, and then if they can bring in the resources, especially of course the funding, this can really be great. So policy, resources, and then a lot of these people have the ability to reach people. So the youth service organizations, they have the ability to reach kids through their youth service organizations. Your faith-based organizations can, reach the adults in your community as well as kids in your community. And then the service organizations not only can reach their members who are adults, but something like 80% of the service clubs in Indiana, in their mission statements, mention youth. So this would be a great project for your service clubs, Aquinas, Rotary, Lions Club, for them to get engaged because it would be right in alignment with their mission. So those are the members of the steering team. Remember, the steering team are just the change managers. So the member organizations is really what this is all about. So the member organizations are the decision makers. Collectively, you'll help them decide, okay, what are our county's goals going to be? What are the areas in our county that are getting in the way? And what are we going to do about it? Then the member organizations also become the doers. They are the activity implementers. Sometimes they'll be working together, but a lot of the time, if not in the beginning, all of the time, they'll be working independently. So it might be that every single Boy Scout troop in your county is going to do some kind of college access activity. Every single Lions Club in the county is going to do some kind of college access or college completion activity. So they're the decision makers and also the activity implementers. It's about the member organizations. So I want to back up to, that means that let's say you've got 4 high schools in your county and only one of them is represented on the steering team. That's okay, because remember, the steering team are just the change managers. The other 3 high schools will be involved as member organizations. So all of the high schools get involved as member organizations, but one person from one of the high schools will be on the steering team. And then when we come to recruiting member organizations, the steering team members just recruit people like themselves. So the high school steering team member would recruit all the other schools. The faith-based member of the steering team would recruit all the other faith-based organizations in the county. So that's kind of what the organizational structure is like. Really the membership in your county's coalition is just any organization in your county that's interested in the community, in higher ed, in kids. It's just anybody, any organization. We've had paint stores join, grocery stores, Chicago's Pizza, I know, joined in Hancock County. So just, business, of course, but just anyone who's interested in the well-being of the county. Okay, so then also on the steering team, and this is for a lot of counties that need a restart, this is where it fell apart. So on the steering team, we are suggesting that you delegate responsibilities. And I can't tell you how important it is. Really 9 times out of 10 when the steering team flounders, it's because these tasks have not been delegated or people are not following through on these tasks. So on your steering team, and as we work with you, we'll give you more information about this, but one person, just as an example, might be responsible for member recruitment. That's all, the only thing they need to think about is just member recruitment. That doesn't mean that they have to do all the recruiting. That means that they'll kind of coordinate it and organize it. So they may be saying to the other 7 members, okay, everybody this month, let's all go out and each of us recruit 2 organizations, our own organization and 1 more. All of a sudden, then you've 16 members. And then maybe a couple months later, they're saying, okay, let's all go out and get 1 more organization. And then we've gone from, 16 to 24. So So again, just because someone is in charge of each one of these things, it doesn't mean that they have to do that thing. They can delegate it or get others to help them. We will, as we start to work with your steering team, we'll define each of these areas in more depth. And then each month when we're working with you, each different person will know what their homework is, if you will, or what their tasks are for that month. In terms of communications, when we're communicating, for example, when we have a press release that we want to provide for you to send out about your coalition, a sample press release that we've written for you, we'll just send it to the media person, the communications media person, because that's their job. So if you have somebody in one of these roles who's not following through, then we've got a hole. Then we've got a press release and nobody's doing anything with it. So that worker bee on the screen is there for a reason. The best thing you can do as you're restarting, reconvening, is as you're putting together your steering team, make sure that you have 8 members that are worker bees that are going to follow through. I think also as a restart, refresh county, you probably have a much better idea now of how this all works, and I think probably you're in a much better position to recruit the kind of people that you need for the steering team than the first time you did this when you really weren't sure, what you were getting yourself into. Now you know. So, okay, so that's the steering team assignments. And again, we will talk more about this later, so don't worry about delegating assignments right now. We just wanted to let you know that this is how it works when you're on the steering team. Okay, process. I'm going to go through this very fast. There's really 5 steps to the process. The first one is just organizing. That's what we're doing right now. We're reorganizing. So, and the first step is to reconvene, to redefine who your steering team members are. So that's what we're doing right now. It's just that first part of organizing, just getting your steering team together. Then we'll talk with you and prepare you to have your first local discussion with your member organizations. That will happen in January, and that discussion is about setting your vision for your county and then also your data-driven goals. And again, we'll prep you on how to have that discussion, give you all kinds of tools, PowerPoint presentation, a script for every slide, facilitator guides, sample invitations to invite people to the meeting. I mean, anything that we could think of that might help you, we've tried to develop. So that's the first of 3 discussions. So just three meetings locally to talk. First one is about vision and goals. Second meeting is in March, and in that meeting we'll look at some data that will help you understand what's getting in the way of college access and completion in your county. So we'll look at achievement data, we'll look at what kind of choices kids are making, and we'll go down even to 3rd grade. So we will provide for you data that we've collected through a different way, through the our Redesign School Counseling Initiative, but also then that is also the Learn More student survey now. So, but you'll have data that tells you what kind of choices are your 3rd graders making? What kind of choices are your 6th graders making? Do they turn in their homework? Have they done a career interest inventory? Have your 11th graders done a campus visit? Do kids talk to their parents about college? Do they know what a FAFSA is? So we'll provide all kinds of data for you, as well as environmental data. That data will tell you things about, what is your teen incarceration rate? What's your child abuse and neglect rate? What's your teen pregnancy rate? So we'll look at things in the community, in the environment, that also might be impacting students' ability to enter and succeed in post-secondary. So you'll look at all of that data, and then you'll come up with the root causes. It might be that the root cause might be that kids aren't completing the FAFSA, or they don't visit college campuses, or they, there's just all these reasons that could be getting in the way. So you'll look at the data, figure out what in your county is going on. That's discussion 2. And then in discussion 3, we're looking at what are we going to do about it. So if, for example, you decide that, oh my gosh, our kids aren't completing the FAFSA, then what are you going to do about that? So at this point, we'll again give you data that shows in your county what's already being done around that topic. And then you'll have a discussion with your member organizations about, okay, you're a Boy Scout troop, what can you do about FAFSA completion? You're a grocery store, what can you do about FAFSA completion? And people tend to get really creative. One of my favorite stories on FAFSA completion is a grocery store that on their paper grocery bags, they just wrote a message about FAFSA and the deadline that was coming up. So for 2 weeks when you got your groceries, there was this handwritten note on your grocery bag. Or an energy company that on their bills, on their invoices, they just wrote a message in the little message box about post-secondary. So, you know, just lots of little things, but when everybody's doing it, then we're starting to change the culture of your community. It's pretty cool. So that's the third and final discussion. So we've gone from vision and goals to what's getting in the way to what are we going to do about it. So three discussions. Then the very last step is to start to talk about how are you going to sustain as a steering team, so, and as a coalition. So we'll look at your governance structure, annual plan, annual budget, and then each year when we meet with you in our annual meetings, the very first thing that we always do every single year is talk about the health of your steering team, and to talk about, you know, do we need members that need to be replaced, or do we need to remind people of their jobs, you know, or, so each year, at least once a year, we will, when we're meeting with you face-to-face, give you a chance to talk with your steering team about the health of your steering team. So, okay, so that's the process. And then in terms of leadership development, here's what we're doing. There will be 5 trainings, face-to-face trainings in Indianapolis with your steering team. So the first meeting is November 11th, so that's coming up. We would like the entire steering team to be at that meeting because that's where we're going to talk in depth about delegating tasks. So it's really important that all 8 members are there so that everybody can kind of talk about, okay, how is this going to work? Then the next 3 meetings, December, February, and March, we only need 2 people to be at. And that's a change for some of you who did CSC like in 2010. We used to have all 8 members come to every meeting. And we changed that a couple years ago. So the 2 people that come to those middle meetings would just be the people that are going to be facilitating the discussions at home. So whoever's going to facilitate that first discussion about vision and goals, that's who we want to see. And then the second one in February and third one in March. And then at the end in April, that's where everybody comes back, and at that point we're talking about the governance structure, and we're really, you know, talking about, okay, as a steering team, how do we make this sustain over time? So, okay, so that's the leadership development. Real quickly, in terms of resources, there's the online change management system that we provide for your steering team. There's lots of different parts on this. It's very robust, but you can see when we did the screenshot that Decatur County had 3 members that were waiting to be approved for their coalition, so they got a little flag over here. Their member recruitment person also got an email saying that these people are waiting to be reviewed. And then there's tabs over on the left where you can go to do work. So we'll, again, at the first meeting, we'll talk more about this. All kinds of resources coming from Learn More. The Learn More magazines, which are wonderful. All of your member organizations can order those magazines. So your doctor can get, you know, 12 sets for his waiting room or whatever. Website, campaigns, college cost estimator, the student survey, that is actually how we collect the data, the Learn More survey for the coalition. We already have speakers in your counties that are there waiting to be called to give talks locally on college, on planning, preparing, and paying for college. So there's the Speaker Bureau resource. College Success Summit is after you get going and sustain, the commissioner will come out and make a presentation in your county, which is a big deal. And then there's another activity search tool that your public library can go in and say, show me across the state what other public libraries are doing in this initiative, and 19 different libraries right now will pop up and you can read about what they're doing as a college success initiative. Okay, so then incentives. In year one, there was a monetary incentive which you've already received, so that you have. We can, if you're not sure who your fiscal agent is, you can go online and click on fiscal, and that'll pop up in your website, or call Debbie and we can help you figure out where that money was spent originally. And my guess is that if you've been an inactive county, and that's why you're restarting, that probably the majority of that money is still there. So hopefully you can tap into some of that money to help you get restarted. Then in year two, counties that have member organizations that have documented that they are active and have implemented activities qualify for the state to proclaim your county as an Indiana College Success County. And that's when you get the big road sign that we award at the State House. It's kind of a big deal. I think Vigo County has just ordered 11 different road signs to say this on every entrance of their county. Their economic development folks are loving it. And Hancock County just told us last week that they're ordering signs for each. They want to put a sign in front of each of their schools. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then as you sustain, that's when you can apply to host the commissioner in your county for a county discussion. So that's pretty cool. So, okay, so the application was originally due October 25th. We are going to extend that deadline to November 3rd. And so the application is really easy to fill out. The application is a two-pager, and basically all you're doing in the first page is writing down who your steering team members are going to be. And on the second page, you're just promising that you're going to come to the trainings, and that's it. So the only hard part of that is going to be to get the 8 members to volunteer to be on your steering team. So that's, you know, other than that, there's no essays, there's no hurdles to jump through. We just need to have you have the steering team in place and then send that in to us. That is on the website, which is I guess let's go ahead and put that up right now. So the website is www.learnmoreindiana.org/CSC. So easy to remember, learnmoreindiana.org/CSC. Okay, and here's the website. I got ahead of myself. Yeah, so there's the website, learnmoreindiana.org/CSC, and then just click that application over where the arrow is pointing to. That will open up the application. Remember, we've extended the deadline. And just fill it out. It's really easy to do. And send it to us, and we're good. So if you have questions at any time, please feel free to call Debbie. Debbie's only responsibility with our organization is to serve you. So we have a rule that you maybe have heard before, but we really feel strongly about it and strict about it. And that rule is that if you are ever confused for more than 5 minutes, you are required to call Debbie. So we really, it kind of frustrates us when we hear people say, oh, we didn't want to bother you. No, please bother us. This is Debbie's job. Debbie won't have a job if you don't call her. So call Debbie, email her. No question is too silly. And even if you don't even have a question, just call to say, okay, Debbie, I don't know what to do next. Where do I start? Then that's great. It allows Debbie then to jump in and help you. So please feel free to call her. Okay, so I think that's about it. Let me see if we have any questions. I'm not seeing any hands up. Let me see if any other questions have come on the board. I'm not seeing any questions typed in. Okay, so those of you who are watching this as a steering team, this would be a great time to say, okay, let's open up that application, let's get that filled out and sent in. And really it's so easy because all you have to do is put down people's names and their contact information and then get it to us, and that should be good. So that would be a great time to have this discussion. If you're watching this with a couple of friends, this would be a good time to, right after the webinar, to just talk about, okay, how are we going to complete the steering team? Who needs to be filling those 8 different types of people, and who's going to call whom? So that would be the immediate follow-up, I think, to this webinar. So, okay, again, I'm not seeing any questions. So, and probably tomorrow, all these questions will pop into your head, and of course, then call Debbie immediately. So, okay, that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your interest in your county and in post-secondary education and in serving youth and your adult learners. We just think this is really important work. We think it's honorable work, and it's good work. And especially, you know, think down the road to that data for your county driving over the years, how good that's going to feel. Those are numbers, but they represent lives. And we just think that this is really good work. So, okay, thanks so much, and we'll close it now. And